And hello, everyone, and welcome to the Second Sons reunion show, as promised by your donations at the Red Saturday charity event. There we go. I am here with four of my favorite people in the universe. Well, actually, if I was really being true to Second Sons, I would have said three of my favorite people in the universe plus Aaron. But I'm so happy to have you all here back for one sort of final show after a 2020 that has been a thing. But it's so wonderful to see your amazing, handsome faces today. As always, I'm Roy Rogers of the White Book. Joining me is Aaron, who does not get to speak during the introductory segment. Then we have Chris Schoenthal, still the champion of my heart. How was your holiday season, Chris?
Fine. I'm here.
He's here. He survived. Also joining me is our former technical maven. As you can tell, the fact that I've just ported a Zoom call into OBS, that we are not being produced by Buzz today. How are you doing today, Buzz?
I'm great.
How are things
Late as usual.
in Sweden?
We finally got snow, global warming and stuff, and it disappeared the day after. So we almost had a white Christmas.
Almost.
Almost.
We had a wet Christmas here, so. All right. And then last but definitely not least, fellow Second Sons co-founder, Sid. How are you doing today, Sid?
Co-founder, episode 2, remember? Not quite founder. Like, I just missed out on the founders edition for sure. I'm doing, as well as can be. My family's safe, and that's about all you can ask for.
Yep.
And and I'm not working, so I guess for a little bit more, and I got it. I'm not working right now.
Right. You go back Monday, I assume.
Monday, yeah. So I'm enjoying this week, or trying to enjoy this week of getting projects done and then not doing anything important. Like Sons, let's go.
So hey, how's teaching online for you? I'm assuming you're distance.
Oh yeah. I honestly, if they asked me to do it full time, I'd say yes.
Really?
Because I would. Because I don't know, I like it. It doesn't bother me. I get creative and it's fun. We run it like a stream. It's good times. It's. I mean, I'm not gonna get that option. I'm gonna have to go back with everybody else when it's time. But yeah, I actually don't mind it. I found I needed something like this.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. I would like work patterns to be where you work really hard for like an hour, you teach, and then you can walk your dog or do any of the like normal stuff. Like that's the thing I most like about online teaching is that you work really hard with the kids, you're with the kids, and then instead of finding awkward things to say in the teacher's lounge or sitting at your desk grading papers, you're in your house. So if there's some way to like do the in-person part and then keep the the rest of your time being less structured than it is when you're teaching in a normal building, that I would like, but I don't think that's going to be possible.
No. Yeah, we restructured our entire schedule, so it's 3 classes a day. Like split up with big breaks between them. Kind of like Roy said, like I have time to grade all my stuff between classes. I have time to meet with kids after every class. Like they put a ton of thought into how to do it after it was a total disaster at the end of last year, right? That rushed distance learning to finish last year. This year's been pretty great. So I don't know. I'm gonna miss it, to be honest. I know that's not every teacher's story, and not every district kind of got their shit together, but I'm thankful mine did.
I mean, look, it's fairly reasonable. It's just classes are only a half hour, and there's no way on earth to cover double college level course load in a half hour a day.
No,
right? So
that's
I'm just
crazy.
slamming my head into not being able to finish things. But the actual like kids are like, "Are we just working again today?" I'm like, "Yeah, I don't really have time to like. I'll instruct you based on what you write because like you just have to do work now, work around." But yeah, I don't know. I'm sure no one but the 3 teachers here cares, so we can move along.
Well, we have a parent, as 3 parents here, so at least the parents also care about the quality of online education, I guess.
True.
All right.
Mine's not on mine, so I have no opinion.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she hasn't been since, I don't know, September or something like that.
Oh, so it was the end of last school year. She was a distance, and then she's been in person for the school year.
It's hybrid, or it's just fully everyone's back?
I believe it's hybrid. I don't really understand how they're splitting it up, but I do believe it's split up somehow because I know they were planning to go back to full time November 30th, and then things got worse, and they were like, "Well, I guess we're not doing that." And I was like, "Could we not do any of it?" But
Yeah.
it's what it is. None of us have caught it yet, so I guess things are okay. But we get like weekly emails about it, like somebody at the school has received it. And I'm like,
Wow.
it's only a matter of time.
We went hybrid for 3 weeks, and within 3 weeks we were in orange zone again. It was just like, oh, we should stop. It's like, yeah, thanks.
I mean, we're in the worst zone, but apparently, I don't know whether it's California specific or how things are written, but they say that as long as the school like has started to open in a specific manner, they get to stay open at that level if they want to. And I live in an area where they want to. So
That's definitely not how it works out east. So
No.
All right, so let's talk about something a bit more positive than COVID education.
So not Thrones either, huh?
So not Thrones.
I was gonna say it can't
Yeah,
be Thrones.
Well, I think I have some.
It's a good beer.
What's the beer, Sid?
Institution Ale. It's a local brewery that you can special order and pick up cans. And there's a few stores that I've heard they show up at, but it doesn't matter. A good beer, a good local beer, always is a pleasant thing.
I got a good local beer too.
Nice.
I have homemade seltzer water. Oh yeah.
Wait, you homemade alcoholic seltzer?
I wish. No, I have. I told you I drank everything last night. I was like, I should save this beer for Sons, and then I was like, no, I feel sad, so I'm gonna just keep drinking it. Anyway, so I prepared some classic sort of Second Sons talking points here. So I thought to sort of do this. What is your favorite Second Sons memory from back when we were doing the show regularly? So I will start with, since Sid's nodding his head the most, I'll start with Sid. So it sounds like he has a
I did have something did come into my mind when I saw the agenda. So it's got to be favorite Sons memory is the Thrones War live show. The show was a disaster. It's a horrible show. The audio was bad. Not Buzz's fault at all. It was just the environment. But it was the first time we were, and the only time the five of us were in a physical space together.
while we were doing the show. I think we were all at the Worlds that Jakob won, but we weren't all doing the show together, right?
But maybe it was just the closer. Oh, there you go. See, yeah, I think it was like in my memory, it was the only time. Maybe I'm romanticizing it a little bit.
Wait,
but
Buzz, you were at the Thrones War that Mira won?
Yes, we were all at that one.
We were all, so there's two.
That's the one we're talking about, right?
No,
No,
it's the one.
No, we did the live episode.
Couch. Gotcha.
The one that is one of my favorite Sons.
There have been two because we tried. I think we tried to do an episode from the bar, but at the second one, we realized that there was just like the internet sucked too badly.
And
the one on the couch was the first, right? The first.
Yeah, the one on the couch is the one.
Okay, because that's also my favorite Thrones War. And partly because we were all together, and it was a great haul that we had in San Diego that year, and I think just seeing all of you in person is kind of my favorite memory. Right, the show is terrible, but I had so much fun sitting there with messed up hair and super tired at the end of a long day of Thrones. But it was great, and it just, when I think about the best times I've had and the opportunities I've had being a host on the show, that memory just pops up.
Yeah, that's definitely one of my favorites. Buzz, do you have one?
When I quickly wrote down what to say on each of these segments, I wrote, fuck if I know. And the backup was that, at least we met once for the first time, all of us. So I don't really know. Probably some episode I don't remember. We've done quite a few episodes, actually. So...
over 100? I think over 100.
Wow.
Yeah.
We did over 100 of these things.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Holy shit! I thought we did
because we were doing them. We were doing them bi-weekly for a while.
So I joined at the end of 2016, and if we did them like every other week for 2 or 3 years, that's pretty close.
Yeah, close to 4 years, I think.
Yeah, 5 years actually. It was like January 2016, right? And so.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Swan Song episode that never aired. That's probably the best one, the legendary one.
The 2016 election one, because that's my least favorite memory.
That was
I think
going.
it,
that
I
was
think it
going on my
disappeared in
list.
the ether.
It definitely
It's one of
should.
my favorites because I didn't show up for it.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't even remember what we talked about or anything. But
was
yes,
Miranda
that it
winning worlds.
disappeared. Okay, yeah. So that it disappeared. That's
Miranda winning
that's
worlds
my
as
favorite
democracy
one.
fell.
The fact that you can't go back and relive it.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
I
no
feel like we're
record.
really
It's-
really jumping the gun on that least favorite.
Yeah. No, it's like the only thing that, so we met up at the Thrones War one, right? But that's a big memory with a lot of other people as well. But that Thrones memory is only ours. So
That's fair.
Yeah.
My favorite episode that we did, and my favorite memory, is the one after Chris won. I think it was. Did you become official host at that episode, or it might have been the next
Yeah.
episode, Chris?
It wasn't official. We just like added him to the chat, and then he was there.
Yeah.
And where we had you and Seth on the show, and it went on for like 4 hours, to the point where Alec kicked me out of my bedroom, and I had to finish the episode in the bathroom of my apartment, and it was just very giddy because that was such a good Gen Con as well. So it was just like such a really good. It was in many ways like one of the real high points of 2.0. So
In fairness, with Schoenthal winning, made it a good Gen Con. Everything else about that Gen Con was a disaster.
the party
That was
was good.
Sure, but that was the Gen Con that FFG like destroyed everything.
That's true.
Like couldn't count and didn't do their graduated cut right. Like, like that was a really bad Gen Con for most other things.
It's true.
I mean, I don't even think it was like the bottom. It might be bottom 3, but I think there were at least 2 that they managed to do worse than that.
Sure, the collusion one, I guess, right? Like,
That's fair.
um,
All right, Glazer, you got one?
oh yeah, Schoenthal's first episode is my favorite. It was when it like the second he actually joined, it became like a steady show. Until then, it was just us kind of like being way too drunk and like rambling. And like as soon as like he added some much needed professionalism.
It's the first
Like-
and last time I've added professionalism.
Fair, like, but it was like it was ridiculous. Until then, it was me and Sid getting drunk and yelling at each other, and Buzz
Pretty much.
wandering away from the camera. And then Schoenthal joined, and all of a sudden we had to talk about the fucking game.
It's true.
Rough life.
Like it became a good and important show at that point. It was really nice, but like before that, holy shit.
Chris?
I mean, I was gonna go with Sid's. The one on the couch was
Good moment.
was
Yeah.
very special and was a lot of fun. I need to go back and listen to the one where I joined apparently because I guess it was great.
Yeah, I think
Like I have a not great memory in general, so I don't have any specific memories of that show, but I definitely remember cuddling far too close on the couch trying to get everybody in the chat and not having like multiple guests just wander in and some of them unprompted. And,
I mean, it's really sad that Trey's not here watching this, right?
you'll watch the
true.
YouTube video.
The
and
the
message me
number
about
one
it.
fan is
One
not
fan.
not even here. That's sad.
Although Trey's not the one who's somewhat responsible, because we took like after Trump won, we took like a 5-month break, I think. And
Was it really that long?
it was pretty long. And then I went to the regional in Rochester, and a teenage boy whose name I don't remember, he went up to me. He was like, you're Roy Rogers? And I said, yeah. And I was like,
The
and he's
Roy
like,
Rogers.
and he's like, oh, do you do that show, The Second Sons, right? And I was like, what? Yeah, I guess we do. I was like, why'd you stop doing episodes? It was my favorite thing about about Thrones. I was like, wait, someone's first off, in my head I was like, I think I remember messaging Glazer or Will, or it might have been even the
You
Sunshine.
messaged me.
And I was like, first off, what shitty parent is like letting their kid watch our show? And then
Every
two,
Tuesday.
and two,
Good question.
I can't imagine.
and two, wow, that's so sad. It's this kid's favorite thing, but it helped inspire us to get moving because when we came back is when we had Ryan on when he spoiled his card.
Eric, right? Because not Iron Bank, or was it Iron Bank?
I think it was Faceless Man because Iron Bank had come out and we talked about Iron Bank, and then he brought Faceless Man, I think, something like
I
that.
forgot Faceless Man was a card, so that's good to know.
But yeah, our
I mean, except from the art, it's not.
Yeah. I think we were able to get that scoop because the card wasn't as good as Iron Man.
What?
So-
I played it into a top cut, so it's great.
Yeah, but you're good at this. Right? Like,
Was that in France, Buzz?
I don't think it was released by then. Maybe I think it was in my Dothraki crossing. Basically Banff, but Dothrakis.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of favorite memories, what is your favorite General Thrones memory? I think Chris has a really easy one, so I'll call on Chris first.
I have an order of business.
Oh, okay.
Should we do like favorite, least favorite, least favorite?
Okay, that's cool.
Or else we'll just do a bunch of favorites and then.
Yeah, it'll be too much of a downer
Just-
going
Yeah,
into
that's
this.
fair. All right. So then let's do least favorite.
I don't know.
son-
2020 seems like appropriate for just a bunch of down endings.
Well, definitely for
I don't know.
well, least favorite son's memory before we jump to positive. So, does anyone have a least favorite son's memory besides me? It's definitely the election night show. I mean, my wife was vomiting
I
off
don't think
screen.
there's a
That was my.
close second besides that one. Like
It was just the
between Miranda
the epitome
winning and, like I said, democracy just being destroyed. I don't know how you get worse than that.
I mean, we definitely came pretty close when all of us got in a fight with Sandy on the show.
excuse me, I also missed that show. You might be
Oh,
noticing.
yeah,
a
that
pattern
one
here.
was really bad. You're right.
When was this?
that was
What was the fight about?
It was after my exodus,
was-
so
it
it was
was when
definitely
he
the
was-
dark days. It was
Yeah,
the dark
and
days.
the
Natalia
declining
were-
days.
Yeah.
We're like drunk off their asses together, and we're like ranting about our lack of representation and how we were all bad people, and specifically me. I think a lot about how he didn't think I had enough people of color involved in a project that didn't end up working out anyway. So fuck it.
And it was like right after all the drama about the mystery night, so it was like all piled up together into one shit show of an episode. So that's like my second favorite memory, or least favorite memory, excuse me. So, I mean, and other people's least favorite memories.
Same election night, and it's not close.
I mean, I wasn't on either of those, so like,
That's sick brag.
neither of those bugged me. Thanks. I
me.
wish I was on that second one because holy shit, when
do
I
too.
fired back real hard, like
I deeply, in retrospect, wish you had been there.
I mean, look, part of the reason that kind of thing happens is like I'm not there, right? Like, but yeah, my least favorite episode was like episode 2, where we reviewed a bunch of cards, but we were extremely drunk, and it was just like
That was episode 1, buddy.
Was it? Episode
Yeah,
1
that
was
was
the
the first episode.
worst thing in the world. Like extremely drunk.
Then you asked me to be on, and it
I was
got
gonna say,
worse.
was that when it was just like the two of you and Naj?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so.
nice.
And
Buzz. And Buzz was always there.
Was this the winter, like the Lords of Winter or whatever it's called?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the
Naj
Starcraft.
dropped after one episode. He's like, "Oh, fuck this. I'm
I
not,
mean, the
I'm not doing
episode
this
was like
ever
6
again."
hours.
Yeah,
Can't really
I can
blame
get
him.
I can get behind that being the worst memory.
It was
so.
absolutely
We hadn't
terrible.
quite figured out what we wanted from the show.
We
For-
didn't until
feedback.
Show and Tell got here. Like Sid helped, and then he discovered that
That's
he could
probably
be drunk.
why I got an invite, right? The first
Well-
episode was so bad, and then I came on, and it kind of was like, "Oh, you interviewed someone." You're like, "Hey, that was actually not bad. Let's just make it."
But
on
then
the
you
show."
started getting drunk every episode, and it stopped being better.
Did
right?
I? Did I?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were all
I have no
pretty
memory
heavily
of
in our
that,
cups.
which makes
In
sense.
those early
when
episodes.
when you were not a host, you were amazing, and then you were a host, and you were like, "I'm gonna have 7 beers a night," and that was that. And then Show and Tell kept us all sober.
It was fun.
Anyone else's least favorite memories? All right. So then let's go to favorite General Thrones memory. Chris, again, I'm going to start with you because you have an easy one that like immediately jumps off. So what's your favorite Thrones memory?
Yeah, it's definitely Gen Con 2016. I mean, it's the only real success I've had, so you know,
Well-
it was a pretty good weekend.
If you're gonna have that be your only success, that's a pretty good.
Yeah, I
feather
think
to
it's
cap.
still the biggest by numbers North American tournament that happened.
I think so. Yeah, maybe Last Worlds was bigger.
I don't think Last Worlds was bigger
I
because
don't
it was
think
like
so either.
90 and 90, and mine was like 220.
Oh wow, okay. God, there weren't that many people. That's right. Like very little about the actual tournament I remember from that Gen Con because like I went 3-3 or whatever
Sure.
the record. So I remember all the fun things, like watching you win and John punting and the after party.
I wanted to kill him.
And the amazing after
So
party we
mad.
had, and Gaiman being really upset that he got screwed out of being in the cut. Like, that's the stuff I remember. I don't really remember the actual tournament day itself. So, Sid, favorite Thrones party.
Favorite. I'm gonna go way back to CaliCon 1. This is like 2005, 2006, and it was like I learned how to play the game like 3 months before, and because I'm dumb, I was like, I'm gonna run a tournament, and then like John Bruno like rallied SoCal, and the Sacktown Mafia showed up. Lucas Reed, who was working at FFG, like sent me a bunch of stuff because I randomly emailed him and was like, hey, I think you're in charge of tournaments. Is there any way we could get support? And he was like, yes. And then called me. And then during the tournament called me, and Lucas Reed was like, hey, how's it going? Is your tournament working out? And like, he was at home. It was on a Saturday. And like that moment got me to stay. I was just like, well, this is insane and amazing. And I just like posted about something happening in a backyard, and like 25 people showed up, and some of them drove 6 hours to be there. And I was like, this is not a community like any other. And that's just it blew my mind that both that people showed up, even though they didn't know me, and that at that time, FFG's support was like personal and real, and
Good old days.
yeah, the very good old days. If you're listening, Lucas Reed, which I know you're not,
I'll let him read.
I'll also let him know.
You got
So.
named
but
dropped.
yeah, thank you, because like it meant the world. Like, he sent us booster boxes and like thousands of gold dragons. For those old school players know what I'm talking about. It was incredible, and that, I mean, we did it like 6 years in a row. It eventually got like kind of transformed into Thrones War. Like it was the genesis of a lot of like tournament stuff in California, and I just couldn't believe it. So yeah, that's when I think back to like how it all started. The first CaliCon, aka WindyCon, for those in the know, because it was in my parents' backyard and it was windy as hell. Like, we were laying little stones on cards on the tables so they wouldn't fly away in the wind. My parents used to have like a bunch of little pebbles in the yard, and gravel basically. And yeah, it was a great time.
Awesome. That is a really good memory.
Yeah, if I had a second favorite, I think it would probably be my first CaliCon also. So there's a
Which
lot
number
of,
was your first one, Chris?
I don't remember the number. It was the one that was at Joey Krine's house.
Right, when he was sharing a house with Dan, like
Yeah.
out in Brentwood, maybe.
Yeah,
Somewhere? Yeah.
And like I'd learned the game maybe a month before. Like, the first tournament I went to was in October, and the first tournament I went to was like in September, and then it was in October, and I was just like brand new to the community, and like a couple of the local guys like Alex and Ross and Josh Bryant all were like, oh, we're going to this thing in NorCal, and I'm like, hell yeah, let's do it.
That's awesome.
And so yeah, that was my first meeting with the larger Thrones community, like the combination of SoCal and NorCal. And I remember Bruno was still a legend at the time, and so I got to meet
Still a
him, and that
legend.
was cool. And he was like playing all his games, including his cut games, with like an iPad open with the Cowboys game going.
Oh, yeah.
Half paying attention to his cut games. And I'm like, damn, he's still crushing people. Like,
Oh, it's my turn. Let me just.
yeah.
One second.
Right.
And that's harder to do in Thrones than it is in like Magic, because there's way
Sure.
more like back and forth during your opponent's steps. Buzz.
I'll go ahead and take two. One personal and one community one. The personal one is my first international tournament, which was I think it was the first Blackwater Bay in London. I
was there.
yeah, I think so, yeah. And
Yeah,
then
it's fair.
it was basically all of the Swedish meta we newly created, more or less. And we traveled to our first tournament, and we took 3 of the top 4 spots. And my top 8 game was against Elector. It was super intense, like Knife's Edge game, and I won. and he shook my hand and said, "Dude, this is the best Thrones I've ever seen."
Oh.
That blew my mind. Like, whoa! And before the match, people were like, "Do you know who that is? Do you know who that is?" And then the community one is the way people come up to me, especially the Euros after the World Melee Final 2015. The UK guys, I think it was at Stalek or maybe at the next Blackwater or something, they bought a whiskey that they all signed, and it's like signed by everyone, People's Melee Champion and stuff like that. And the Swedish guys did the same thing. One of the things they got me was one power token framed, because that's how far away I was from victory. Yeah, stuff like that, like how people come together as in the community. That's my real favorite memories.
Glazer?
Yeah.
So there's this weekend in first edition. We don't care if it's first edition, I'm assuming, because is first edition. But so there's this weekend in first edition where it was actually the weekend before I got married. I'm 99% sure, because memories were funny, but like I'm pretty sure it was the weekend before I got married, where I think I ditched work on a Thursday to drive down to Maryland for a Friday night tournament that I came in second. The next day, I won the DC store championship, the very first store championship. And then the Sunday, we drove up to Connecticut, and I played in a tournament there. And, like, oh my God, I was, like, literally dying as we drove up Sunday. I think I was, like, I actually threw up twice. I tried to go to sleep in the car before the cut, and, like, because I didn't think I made it, and they dragged me in to go play the cut. And, like, everything that happened in Thrones after is sort of because of that weekend, because like I won that tournament, ended up married and meeting a bunch of people. I was like, getting married next weekend. And then because I won that DC store championship, I was invited on the White Book to talk about it. And then everything just sort of spiraled, and like here we are, right? But like, yeah, I think that that's it just for this, like, so much coming from that, even though there's probably like immediate better ones, but the 3 tournaments in 3 days when I was like intensely into the game, and yeah, that'll be it, and all the stuff that came from it.
Yeah, so I'll do 2. Well, it's really like 2.5. One's personal, with
7.
which is that which was the first testing weekend for this would have been for Gen Con 2015 that I was invited to really test with New York and Ottawa / wherever the fuck Heinz was living in Canada at the time.
Nadja's house?
No, this was at Dan's house, where
Oh.
you and
Yeah.
and then we tested like all day. There was tons of great games. People who became really important to me over the time, Gaiman and Emberly and John were there, and Glazer. And then Glazer and I ended up sleeping together in a completely platonic way in Dan's bedroom, just talking to like all night, like, mostly platonic, like until like 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, drunk, and just like that was the moment where Aaron and I think became really, really close friends. Mm-hmm. Was at that weekend, and all that testing that we did, and then Dan invited me to his house basically every day until Gen Con from then. So that was like three weeks. And so basically like every day or every other day I was at Dan's house testing. And that led directly to me making the top 8 at that Gen Con.
Everyone should have taken the deck I took.
I know. Oh, I made the right decision for myself. I had so much practice with that Greyjoy deck. Like, and if I had just followed my original plan I had developed instead of listening to Strohms, in how to
That's
open,
always best.
I should just open Fear of Winter instead of opening Retaliation, and I would have been much better off in that first turn. Anyway, Steve Simoni just wrecked me in the top 8, which is fine. But that was my big Throne success for a long time, and then until I won Winds of Winter and did well a couple Gen Cons later. But yeah, so that was like kind of the major moment in my life where Thrones really clicked for me. It was also a very dark time in my life, and I appreciated the comfort that the community gave me, which is a classic whenever I talk about Thrones stuff. The other thing would be, this would be the first Thrones Toberfest that we had in Philadelphia, where it was war style, where we filled the entire upstairs of Redcap's Corner, and the heads of Team Lannister, what team was CT's team that year, Aaron? What was CT's team? Where they all showed up with Gaiman, and where they all decided to go to breakfast.
They were Lannister.
They were Lannister. Yeah, they were Lannister. Yeah, because they're the only one.
Because they talked crazy shit that year.
Yeah, and they also took Mirando and friends,
yes.
right? They were late coming in, and just this roar when they finally came in and we started the tournament, and it just was like this moment of like, oh wow, like 75, was it more than that? It might have been 85 people came to Philadelphia, which had no Thrones community, just a year or so before then, for this big event. It was just like this, whoa, we actually made it happen, and it was really cool. So least favorite Thrones memories. I think a lot of these are going to come from 2019 and 2020, I feel, for this group of people. We'll start with Buzz, who I'm actually kind of like, what is yours, Buzz? Because you also have a big one. So what is your least favorite Thrones memory?
Ooh. I don't know. I don't think it is what you think it is. And I don't think I necessarily have like one big memory. So for me, it's probably anytime the community doesn't come together, when the community doesn't behave as it's supposed to, as they do in my favorite memories. So like 2019, I believe, Starlek, people cheating or like playing in a what do you say in English?
Without integrity.
Oh, without integrity. Yeah. That's perfect. Stuff like that, which is also what happened in 2015 Melee final, of course. But I was going into it knowing that that's what they were gonna do. Of course, talked.
He'd done it before.
That was rough to watch from the sideline.
Yeah, of course. But the thing is, I knew they would do it, so that's fine, kind of. They behaved like the villains they are, while others that's like play without integrity, do it for all these kind of weird reasons and out of the blue, and that I think that hurts me more when I see that happen. I haven't had that happen to me, but I've seen it happen and seen people being really sad about it, and that sucks.
I'm going to keep going to the people whose least favorite memories might be a little less explosive, I guess you could say. Glazer.
Oh, man. Mine's easy. The last Thrones War. I'm not going to get into any great detail. Everyone there knows. Sorry again, Sid. It's where I learned that I actually had pride as a Jew. Because who the fuck knew? I don't really identify, but apparently,
Yeah.
There's a line there. But yeah, it's very much my least favorite Thrones memory. Like, I think it's my only the only Thrones memory I consider a bad one. Like, a lot of the other ones that were bad ones were good story. I guess Jesse, but like a lot of the other bad ones were good stories.
A lot, yes, that's fair.
But like, that's the one where I was I just feel terrible about every time I think about it.
Sid.
I'm gonna keep it real light. I could have gone real dark here, but I didn't because I don't think that's the tone we want to strike on this. Maybe the final Sons ever. I mean, likely the final Sons ever. So I'm just gonna go straight to losing to Joe Miranda in the top 16 at Worlds.
I mean, that is the moment where you were the chosen one. Like,
that's the worst part about it. Like, so much pressure from everybody in California who's like, "Oh, Sid, and you have the deck to beat him." And I did. Like everything lined up. He had lost to Isabel Hines' version of my deck, and our decks were only maybe 6 or 8 cards different. He had lost to her, and I was like, my deck's
Didn't you
even
beat
better
one of
than hers.
Didn't you beat one of her? One of his buddies in the Swiss. Didn't you beat like Keith or one of the other people playing that Lightning Wolf deck in the Swiss?
Probably. I beat every big guy's deck I played with that deck. I broke a lot of hearts with that deck. It was like a it was a wall deck but with flavor. Like it was fun.
It was a very cool deck.
Yeah, and shout out to Johnny Wright for being a big part of bringing that deck together. But and you know what? I didn't even play like badly. It's not like I didn't punt or anything. I just didn't draw the cards I needed, and I should have because the deck's built to beat Joe's deck. Even he is sitting there as we're playing going like, I can't believe I'm winning this, which just makes it like worse, you know, because you're like, oh, I have every card I need somewhere in these like, you know, bottom 30 cards and these top 30 cards that I've seen aren't helping me. And yeah, so like just like that moment, I was like, this is the moment. And he, you know, he was the villain of that year, like in a big way. And no one wanted, and it wasn't just like losing that game, but it was then like sitting at sensors, like watching all the games on our phones, like the rest of the cut as we're, you know, deep in our cups, as they say. And we're watching like, you know, people drop to him in the top 8 and in the top 4. And then the finals are like, oh, for sure he'll lose to this deck. And he didn't. And we all know how it goes, and
he played like trash too.
I know,
right?
And I was, but being the first kind of like stable that he had to bust through in the top 16, it still feels a little bad. I was just like, oh, you know, we replay that game. Already, I'm transported back. I'm already upset.
It's worth remembering that being a good person doesn't have anything to do with being good or bad at the game.
Let's just, like, 2016 was definitely a year with a lot of the evil in America just decided to boil over. And it was just Mirando's year, so.
God, thank God there was no Real Worlds 2020. Right?
I know.
Like, Hitler would have been reincarnated to win Worlds.
Chris, do you want to go or should I go?
I mean, I can go if you want.
Sure.
Okay. I mean, I think for me, it's just been basically the entirety of 2020 after Worlds. Like, Worlds was amazing and was beautiful and tragic in its way. And then everything from there on out has just been a complete debacle.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. I will also keep it real here and say when we had to issue that letter about Jesse, like... That fucked me up. For a long time.
I mean that one's on my list too, kind of, but also like that kind of reaffirmed faith in the rest of the community, whereas the rest of this year has done the opposite. So it's kind of a double-edged sword for me.
Definitely. I mean, I wasn't on the front lines of all that stuff, Chris. So I don't. But just that letter, and then like it wasn't Zoom then. Skype calls we did about it, and I mean I remember you
on this. He was on
know
this
that's why
podcast.
I know he was. I was going through the old episodes, and it was like Roy, Sid, and Jesse talk about this. Buzz, Jesse, and Glazer talk about this, and I'm like, oh, so much of that is tied into. I mean, and that is in many ways like a lot of my favorite Thrones memories. In many ways, are kind of poisoned by that.
In a weird way, and like maybe I wasn't personally enough involved. I'm kind of over the Jesse thing. Like so much that like I feel bad for him more than I'm mad at anything that happened there. Maybe it's just me.
Nope,
it is
just you.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of split between how people see it.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think there's yeah. Go ahead, Buzz.
I've been kind of on the sad for him kind of thing for a long time, but I was also not as close as others to it. So
I have a hard time being actively mad at people I cared about for long at all.
Well, yeah. I just fuck me up. All right, so let's switch into something much lighter. What's your favorite card in second? You know what? Fuck second edition. Any card in the history of the game.
What? I only prepared second edition.
That's fine. If you can think of...
Just say much and more, Buzz.
All right, much and more can be your first...
what?
Not mine.
But you can do two, Buzz, since... If you want,
no, I'm definitely doing two because this is both Joust and Melee, of course.
All right, you can do three then. You can throw a first edition card in there too if you want.
I've prepared several, so I can go later if people say mine. So
Buzz is just unrolling his roll.
All right. Well,
He's got him ranked.
I'll do my favorite card of second edition is the Wall. I knew I would. I was like when I typed that, I was like, I'm gonna say the Wall, and they're all gonna freak out about it. I did it.
Buzz, are you still the host? Can we?
give it back.
But definitely the Wall. I really enjoyed Wall decks, and it led to some of my biggest competitive successes. For first edition, I mean, if we're gonna go cards, Roy was successful as Fear of Winter would be my other favorite card. I loved that card a lot.
I'm gonna give Roy a little credit here. Like the Wall was the first time defense decks were really, really a thing, right? Where you could win on defense only, and Thrones had never really seen that.
Did you forget first edition? What was the name? Oh my God, Maiden's Bane, baby. LMB.
Those were defense decks.
No,
they
come
didn't
on.
care about attack. They were just like, you can attack, I attack for 50. Have a nice day. You can't attack, I attack for 50. Have a nice
Like
day.
that. Those
Little
decks. That
different,
deck.
little
That
different.
deck is in many ways what people think Wall decks are, because that deck like deterministically had you locked out of the game in the ways in which Wall decks really couldn't do. In like, oh my God, that deck.
For a while.
For a
I
while.
played quite a few
Them.
Wall decks too. I wasn't quite as dedicated as Roy, but I have a soft spot in my heart for the Wall also. So I'm not gonna get after him too much for that one.
But anybody else want to fire theirs off?
Yeah, Westeros bleeds.
Both editions.
I mean,
Yeah, back to
It wasn't-
CCG.
it
If I had to
never-
pick a
Let
CCG,
it
that's it.
bleed.
yeah, let it bleed. As obviously the card. Westeros bleeds. No one like. I think I was actually the first one to play it in the when I won the New York, whatever it was, regional.
Had to be regional, yeah.
Yeah, it was the regional in Tard, Long Voyage. Sorry, trying to remember Thrones things that I haven't thought of in 100 years. But like, yeah, I blew out. The only time I ever beat Dan, I think ever, is like he was rolling me and I was like, bleeds. Have a nice day.
Yeah.
Which is gonna make my second edition favorite card, Varys.
Yeah, and that won you another New York City tournament. So
Yeah, I should have lost in the cut. I was getting rolled by Cheatin' Dave, and he like just destroyed me. He had the perfect first turn every time,
what?
and
So
not
surprising.
No.
yeah, but he was like rolled my
The
board,
deck.
and turn two, like as he's like ready to close, I was just like, all right, Varys, and he had 1 gold, so I was like, trigger Varys. I was like, no Tretch, and he went. And he just looked at me so sadly. And then I was like, all right. So I play all my Tywin, Jamie bullshit.
That was a
and
great
that's the
moment.
game. It was, but yeah. that's
Another
it.
great Cheatin' Dave story was when the tournament where Glazer was running 6 Put to the Swords by accident. He was obsessive. He played David and was obsessivly shuffling his
Beating
deck.
Glazer?
Obsessively shuffling David's deck to make sure he couldn't cheat. And of course, Aaron was unintentionally
Was
cheating.
himself.
In
Oh,
fairness, wait. Who disqualified me in that tournament?
You disqualified
did.
yourself.
I
You
did.
did.
I noticed the second I noticed I had it. I was not cheating on purpose.
I know.
Um,
I'm not saying that you
I-
were cheating on purpose. I said unintentionally.
that was the day I met.
It is
Zahid.
funnier to
Zahid.
call Aaron a cheater for it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All
A
right.
major tournament.
Other folks' favorite cards.
I'm
Lamasek won
tempted.
that.
Alex Esposito's in chat, so I'm tempted to say Game of Savas.
Oh, I love
Christ.
Game of Savas.
I did genuinely
that
enjoy
card.
that card a lot, but I think my let's see, I have a lot actually, a lot of cards that I'm pretty fond of. I do love the card that is my background right now, the Harrenhal, prized Harrenhal was.
Oh, I hate that fucking card. I hate
See,
you.
I love it so much. And then in second edition's tough. Maybe Treachery. I like Treachery a lot. Maybe it's memories of the first second edition Thrones War, where we all had my entire team had fans, and every time we played a Treachery, we busted out our little fans.
That's
And we
cute.
threw gold on the floor. It was just fantastic.
Yeah, they had so
That's
much
another, like,
gold, they
crazy
just
Thrones-
threw it onto the floor. Tossed.
God, there's so many fucking good memories. One memory is such a tough ask. Like, I didn't even mention fucking Stalik, and I got 4th.
I wish I went to a Stalik.
Same.
Yeah.
It's my wife's birthday every year.
Yeah.
It's just in Germany. That's why. that's
Well,
my bad.
well,
That's my
I
barrier.
well, I used to have a rich friend.
The good old days.
Yeah. More innocent time. All right, Sid or Buzz? We ready? Favorite
I'll
cards?
go because it's got to be Never Bet if it's second edition, because it was, the panned card of all panned cards of second edition, and like that card in me, like it has to be my favorite because it was the genesis of Jumpers, which is the reason I even ever got on Suns, because I won a stupid tournament in California, which I shouldn't say stupid. It's hard to win a tournament in California, and I did it with Jumpers, and then Jumpers, like, for a season, and most Thrones decks only last a season, but for like a season, Thrones was it, a month or two, 6 weeks, I don't know what it was, but it's like, I don't know, it was like my one contribution to like the meta, and so yeah, it's my favorite because it was that horrible card that no one ever wanted to play, but I found a way, and so it'll always be special to me in second edition. Never Bet's awesome.
All right, Buzz, give us your list.
Okay, so this is unraveled. So I wrote down some first edition things quickly, which is of course Shadows. Period. City of Shadows, the agenda is could be the card, but I think Shadows Nightflowers. The guy who came out of Shadows to save a guy.
God, that card was messed up.
I love it. That's perfect. And how you could like
Just casually,
dodge
like a
powers
huge
and
body
stuff.
with renown that saves guys.
Yeah, and Renown, perfect. So yeah, probably him in the end. Then I have some honorable mentions, which is first Snow Winter,
Oh yeah.
Duo,
Wait, which first winter?
both of them.
CCG, gotta be.
All three of them, I guess, technically.
All three. I didn't play the CCG, so I've never seen it. So
It was exact
But-
1-to-1 reprint, right? In first edition, or did they
Kind of,
change
yeah.
stuff?
I
Okay.
think they
so,
messed
yeah.
with the number a little bit or something.
okay. Well, I played it in both, but I definitely played it more in second edition, and I tried to shoehorn it into every single deck I play in second edition, and then along came Duel, of course, and Support of the People is like the Swedish meta like love card where you cheeky one-off that you always try to shoehorn in, and of course Varys' Riddle. But my favorites for Joust is the SoCal card, the Iron Bank will have its due, of course. And in Melee, it's Offer of a Peach, of course.
Iron Bank got me into playtesting.
Oh yeah, no, we were testing before Iron Bank.
No, I was told about it before, and I had like a long email exchange with Danny, and then like we were added as that was happening, and then it was like the whole ordeal.
Okay.
I love
Because
that card.
we tested the Lannister box. That was the first thing we did, which was the product before the cycle with Ryan's card and John. And,
when games don't exist, neither do NDAs.
I mean, we can always say when a product comes out, you can always say you were a playtester. You're not supposed to say what they did, but we broke that rule so many times. All right. So least favorite card.
I can start.
Go ahead.
The Wall, Core.
There we go.
No, more specifically, the Haunted Forest. I actually.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
So, Tamas was super beloved early on in the game. It became beloved then because of
Oops.
him playing Night's Watch when it was pretty much objectively bad.
Yeah.
And he did the defense thing when it was hard and when you had to struggle for it and there wasn't support for it, and it wasn't a deadlocked game. It was exactly as Roy described, a different way to play the game. But then came the deadlock stuff, including Haunted Forest, which just once they put all of the pieces together, you're done. You can just go AFK. Doesn't matter what you do, actually. unless you have specific, super specific counters, pretty much. Yeah, so Haunted Forest is definitely my least favorite card.
All right. Chris.
I'm trying to think of a good one for second edition. I think my first edition one is probably Longship Maiden's Bane. That was a pretty fucked up card.
Yeah.
And it's weird because I tend to like those kind of cards. Like, I generally like creature lands and like things like that are
Dude,
utility.
I played that at every tournament. Every tournament, I emailed Nate. After every tournament, I was like, by the way, this is still stupid. Here's what
This card is still messed up. Yeah, so that one was pretty stupid. Yeah, I'm trying to think of a second edition one that I really hated, and I can't really think of one. But if one comes to mind based on other people's, I'll let you know.
Sid?
Oh, you're not gonna like this, Roy. Because I hate combo, and you have to choose a card, and there's so many cards. But we'll just say Mace, because it was like the deck was called, Mace combo, and Mace horrible. When you sit down and you see Mace, or they've got Mace in that deck, you just kind of hang your head and go, okay, here we go. Fine, let's do this. I hated it more than the wall. I hated it more than any other deck I'd sit down next to, is if it was a Mace deck. I knew I was in for some non-interaction on my part, and I did not ever look forward to that. So it's got to be Mace.
That's fair. Glazer?
I lost our Zoom call. I accidentally opened my work email. I was trying to click buttons.
Don't do that, no.
So my least favorite card is Pentoshi Manor.
Pentoshi Manor.
Wow, that is a deep
Pentoshi
cut.
Manor.
That is
So-
a deep
Yeah,
cut.
So first edition, my first Worlds, like my third tournament ever was my first Worlds. I lost 2 games in that tournament. One was to Ryan Jones, the overall.
I have to go get
champ,
Rue.
and one was to Alvaro, who won the tournament. And I had Alvaro beat, except he had 3 Pentoshi Manor.
Rue, people want to see you.
And all I needed to get off was, what was the 3 influence chuck all locations? Anyone?
Favorable ground.
Favorable ground. I had
Yeah.
all I needed to get off was a favorable ground, and I saw 2 of my 3, and he hit them both on intrigue. I'm like 7, 8 card hands,
Yeah.
and like I had it was on stream somewhere, but I had him. I just had him, and he discarded one and the other. I was like, all right, I just have to win my next game, and Pentoshi Manor beat me. And then I went to Poland and played this silly little first edition tournament Wedge, lovely, wonderful Wedge. After I had like 2 amazing first edition games, played 3 Pentoshi Manor in like 4 turns, and I was just like, oh, well, that's fun. My Viper is useless. My everything is useless. I hate Pentoshi Manor.
Just take the power and be happy.
I mean, I guess, but you're not happy, right? Like, it's there's a reason. Like, Pentoshi Manor's unique card is fantastic. Pentoshi Manor is not. Manor is not unique. It's stupid.
That's right.
Yeah,
You could have 3 of them. I forgot about that.
Yeah, the 3 of them is what beat me at Worlds. Which, in fairness, I wasn't winning that Worlds. It was my 3rd term. I was nowhere near good enough, right? But like, Alvaro wouldn't have won because he wouldn't have made the cut. It would have been his 2nd loss,
Wow.
and that was one of those 2 losses you're out Worlds.
Right.
I beat Spec. That's how I met Spec and SoCal, and like we had a really, really fun game, and he brought me out, and I beat Kid. And I beat someone I had never met before. But that was and then I had a bye from winning the New York Regional, and it was very upsetting. The next day, I sat there and was like, I lost to the overall champion, world champion, my 3rd ever tournament, and that was amazingly frustrating. Much better first edition than second edition. Also, no child, which helps, right? Show and tell. Oh, second edition, my least favorite card, and I had it, and it's gone. Fuck. I don't know what it was. All right, move on. I'll come back to it. Go.
For me, it's probably. Oh my God! Why is the name?
Oh, I thought of my second edition card.
Oh, what is it?
Oh, I know my
Conflict.
first.
Because it's such a shitty, bullshit, nonsense, not Maester-like agenda.
Oh,
that thing can fuck right off. Like I spent so much fucking work getting people to vote for Maesters, and then they bastardized it with that stupid thing.
Yeah.
I remembered, by the way, my second edition is Euron. Euron is the stupidest card.
Which one? The 7 or 6?
The one that pulls the ship.
No, I don't care. That's stupid, but like, at least there's counterplay. There's no counterplay to 7/6 Euron. Like sometimes, like
Milka's.
I mean, sure. I watched him.
Excuse me.
So I lost a game to Vac where like turn 1 he defended a random intrigue and got my Dorn, and then a Thrones War. Who was it? Oh, Alejandro was eliminated when basically the exact same thing happened against Vansel. Like it's so stupid and random. I hated second edition pillage. It's my least favorite effect. Like of everything that I think second edition did wrong, like the variance that pillage was, like I never was mad when I lost a game because someone outplayed me. Like Simone outplayed me 10 times. Like who cares? I hate losing games because someone's just like, oh, I discarded a card off the top of your deck. I win now. Like,
and it's a copy of your best character, the Mountain. Yay!
Yeah, like all of that interaction is so incredibly stupid. I just wish it didn't exist. And Euron, to me, is the core set representation of that is the one I really hate.
For me, I think I've been trying to think of like what is like the mid-range card that I hate the most, and it's got to be. I've thought about Tywin, I thought about Mirri Maz Duur, I thought about some ridiculous Greyjoy 7 costume. But it's actually I think Plaza of Pride, like that card let just Banner Dragon decks and then later Targaryen decks just have so much action advantage that it just became.
You got a problem with Banner Dragon decks?
I do have a problem with Banner Dragon decks. I hated the Landy Dragon season. Almost made me quit the game. So I really did not like that era of the game. And just that kind of like ridiculous mid-range arms race bullshit just is like the thing I hated most about second edition. So yeah, and that it did teach me a lot. The card did teach me a lot about how card games work, though, I guess. So I can give it that credit. That brings us to the next thing on the list, which is I had to look up what Plaza of Pride is called. All right, favorite deck
ever.
It could be first or second edition. What was your favorite deck? It doesn't have to be you built it, you played it. It could just be what is your when you think about best play experiences in Game of Thrones, the card game.
Play experience wise, or just
like your favorite?
That's
like,
not the same.
Well, no. But when I'm talking about you as a player, Glazer, like what is
my favorite? Because my favorite deck and my favorite play experience are like almost opposites.
Okay. All right, that's weird.
I think people are interested in both.
Yeah.
Sure. All right. So I don't know what my favorite deck was. My favorite play experience was. My favorite deck is 100% that Tar Aloof and Apart. Because no one thought that was a real thing. Dragons were only for melee, and like I was literally sitting at home drinking angry after my first experience with Roy at a playtest tournament. We had this Martell Aloof and Apart deck we called the Drunk Driver because no one could control it, but it just seemed to win games. It was about Viper's Bannerman
and the army stand location.
Yeah, the army stand, and it was just the silliest thing in the world, and we couldn't beat it, but we hated it because like it just made no sense. So I sat there and I was like, all right, what if I turn this curve into a dragon deck? And I love that deck. Jakob went to the finals of that one tournament with it. Dark Nudge should have won Gen Con with it. I probably should have won if I was any good at this game, Gen Con with it. That deck was incredible, and it worked in a way that nothing else in first edition did. I absolutely adored that deck.
What's your favorite second edition?
Wait, which deck is this?
This is the Aloof and Apart Dragons deck that we came up with for that Gen Con, and then Jakob.
No, I don't think I actually played.
Jakob played it at which Swedish tournament was that? Buzz?
It wasn't a Swedish tournament.
Was it not? I thought it was a Swedish tournament. They streamed it. We definitely watched it live.
Yeah, we watched the final and almost cried because we had no answer for Bruno's card. Oh, Mad King in the whole deck. And like Mad King ran over Jakob in the final. But John lost because he had a 1 card setup when that was like a 0.01% chance. and I lost because we had no chance against Dan's deck, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't let Dan scoop, and then I ate a brownie and won my next 2 games high off my face.
He was extremely high, yes.
Like I had to go home and sleep. I was
Before the after party, yeah.
Yeah.
I lost against that deck at Worlds the last year.
Yeah, we had I had Boston take it.
Yeah.
Right.
Boston took it,
One
yeah.
of the
I should have
fittest.
played that at
And
that
the-
Worlds.
What's his face? The Canadian guy.
Matt Gaiman?
Matt
Sean
Damon.
Emberley?
Yeah, Gaiman, yeah.
Gaiman.
Matt
Yeah,
Damon.
Matt.
Matt
Matt
would have
Damon.
played it. Emberly would not have played that.
He was
No, no.
playing...
Oh,
Matt-
I know what my least favorite second edition deck was.
But we'll get there, we'll get there.
Because
Yeah.
Emberly is that deck.
Yeah, I lost
think
against it
it's-
because I forgot to draw cards from my Knights of the Realm agenda.
Oh.
The whole.
I know my favorite second edition deck. My favorite second edition deck. And so my favorite second edition experience of everything is I played this random dude Lemming on Iron Throne, and no one had ever heard of him. And I kept getting messages that he was this really bad German player, and he became our buddy. And I talk to him still regularly. And David, what the fuck is his actual last name?
Tegtmeyer.
Yeah, sure. But like literally, Jesse would message me, be like, "He's not good. Why is he in our team?" 'Cause
David is
I
gas.
love that dude.
David
And he's
is
awesome.
pure gas, whatever term
He
you want
just,
to use.
but
He's
he
amazing.
played bad decks forever. So me, David, and Mel built this stupid deck in second edition. It was if you played in the World Cup last year, you've seen it. It was Martell, Alliance, Barra, and Stark.
Yeah.
And it was the most controlling, stupid, busted thing in the world. Yeah, I know, Buzz. You stopped playing by then. But the deck was.
You would have
just-
enjoyed it,
like,
Buzz. It was very...
It was
I played.
it was the you can't get power location with Varus, with like a bunch of Desert Raiders, and like it was just the coolest control, stupid. Like
It was so
everything
slow,
wrong
though.
about second edition. I mean, it wasn't the way I played.
That's true.
I just
But
it was something that I like always wanted to bring to a tournament, and like it's the only deck I like more than Martell Wolf because the Gen Con that who won? Oh, that Tyler won.
the Lances one.
I lost no games. I had to go to a friend's wedding, so I flew out. It was Roy's bachelor party. I beat everyone I played, and I scooped to Scott, and I scooped to Roy.
Yep.
And like that was the best I've ever played in my life, and like I feel like that was my tournament. But I still think I like that Alliance deck better because it was so stupid and so collaborative.
Sid.
I'll go way back to like CCG first edition and the old Lanny Knights deck. I think Will once played it at a Worlds or Gen Con, or at least his version of it. That was my favorite old style deck. It just had a little bit of everything. It was trait manipulation. It was Lanny, which was my favorite house in the early days, and I guess kind of in second edition also. It had trait manipulation. It was all about the challenges. It just had like early joust stuff. It was an awesome deck. Tons and tons of tricks, which Lannister was really known for in the early days. And then second edition, of course, is Jumpers because it's the most fun I've ever had playing second edition. And it wasn't just the most fun. It was the first time I had fun playing second edition because I didn't really like it at its outset. And then Jumpers was the genesis of it was let's try and have fun.
Was the first time you played that the CaliCon that we had at Black Diamond?
Which one? The
new Black
Jumpers?
Diamond. Yeah.
No, the first time I played Jumpers was at a store championship. I think it was Game Empire.
Okay,
And
I think I was at that one too.
it was a really bad version of it. It was my first version of it. It was awful. It was like it wasn't even crossing. It was something else. But it did okay. I think it made it to the cut, and then I lost probably to Justin Smith. I think I lost to Justin Smith and was like, I can make this better.
Apparently, Dice House.
Oh, was it at Dice House? No, Dice House is where I won with it. I think, Alex, where I first played with it because I didn't win with it the first time I played with it. The first iteration of it was flawed, and I lost.
Glazer and Buzz loved that deck at the time. That is
I
a
remember.
At the time, my ass. That's
But-
like my third favorite second edition deck.
Buzz won Tourney de la Main with it. I'm butchering that, but I couldn't believe it because a lot of people were like, it's like niche, like it couldn't ever win a big tournament, and then Buzz won. Like, how many people were in that tournament, Buzz? It was a lot.
130, I think.
130, and I was just like, the deck is good. I mean, it was good for the meta. Like, it didn't last, but in the meta, it was perfect. And so
in fairness, wait, that's not fair. It wasn't good for the meta. It was good for the game where it existed. Like, new cards obviously change what's good in the meta, but like it's not like oh man, there were easy
I mean,
answers.
to be fair though, like the archetype just evolved, right? Like it evolved into the Lords of the Crossing Jumpers deck, right? That like it went in the deck went in two directions, right? It went towards Wonder Woman combo because the core cards of that deck made up Wonder Woman combo, and then the other direction it went when combo got killed was that like Lord of the Crossing really obnoxious Lannister deck that was a force in the meta until like it kind of flamed. It was always at the war events. And then
if you ask Michelle Smith, it was a force in the meta the entire second edition.
That's fair, but I think the
So
last
I
time
think I ever play
Michelle Smith is awesome.
yes, I like Michelle a lot too.
I was on her team for whatever the hell I was
Smiths are
with
great.
Johnny
I
that
enjoy
first year.
them greatly, but
But
I don't know.
I guess
clung to that deck long after its expiration date.
I think the last time
Oh,
a
yeah.
big group of people brought that deck to something was when the indie Bloody Mummers brought it to the Gen Con, the Tyler one that we brought Mace to, and we just ran. We ran over them
Because Jesse insisted on giving away every deck we ever thought was good, right?
Yeah. Anyway,
We're just gonna keep coming back to that.
we will because
Sorry,
I'll
it was a
go.
major thing.
My favorite deck of first edition was Martell Dark Wings Dark Words. The deck
What?
was really bad, but it was
You're
so
wrong.
I'm talking about like it's the deck I took to Gen Con and I did really well with, which is LIV2. I love that deck. But the most fun I ever had playing first edition was I seldom made the cut, and I would sit with my friends and play Martell Dark Wings Dark Words with all the bullshit Martell events from first edition. And it was just a really, really fun deck to play, like as just a play experience. But my favorite second edition deck is going to have to be.
Mace that we took to Gen Con that year.
It is going to be Mace that we took to Gen Con that year. It could have been Builders.
It's not though. It's Mace.
It's Mace because I mean that was one of the only times that I really put the hours into a deck that was a cutting edge competitive deck, and I feel like my thoughts about it were as good as some of the best players who were playing at the time on our team. And so I was probably at the top of my game at that point. And where we ended the what was it? The 61 cards that we brought to that tournament, I think was exactly the right meta call for that deck. And it felt really, really, really good to be playing the best deck in the room that was like so far above everybody else's.
But you weren't.
What, you think the Martell Wars overall was better?
The Martell Wolf was overall better.
Okay.
The Martell Wolf beat that deck. It didn't beat
It did.
Martell Wars, but
Right.
it beat the fuck out of that deck.
Yes, but we were the only ones who had that version of Martell Wolf. And the only one of us that wanted to play it was you. So,
In fairness, no, Gaiman wanted to play it, just didn't.
yeah, that was his choice. But, yeah, and that was just a really amazing experience. But, Buzz.
First, the most important, Melee.
going to
HRD
get
High
another drink.
Garden. HRD High Garden, which was Whamma's like improvement of my Tyrell Wolf deck that I brought to Melee. High control, High Garden, and Offer of a Peach focused. Super fun to play. I recommend it to anyone who wants to try Melee. I'll post my public deck lists in the chat. Then I had this idea that I'll build up to my favorite deck, but Glacier destroyed it by not picking Martell Wolf because I had a hard choice deciding with my version of Martell Wolf, crossing jumpers, both the Banff and my own Dothraki version, which would put me on the Dothraki because obviously Sid would take the Banff. So.
Got it all geeked out.
He does.
Right. Yeah. But he didn't pick a Martell Wolf. So my favorite My favorite, actually, my favorite deck, like how it was to win with it, was Martel Wolf, my version with First Snow and Riddle and stuff, and Duel. But my favorite play experience would be the Dothraki Jumpers, which is in the Banff style, just doing stupid stuff, playing Duel with only 7 cost characters in the deck, stuff like that.
Was that you played that at Stolic, right?
Yeah. It went really well. I was 5-0 and then 5-3. I don't know. It just crapped out on me. It was super fun to play though. Let's see. But my all-time favorite deck is from first edition. It was the first deck I built myself, because towards the end of first edition, I'd never actually built a deck myself. I just took decks, played them, and improved them, which has been my style even in second edition, Banff deck included. But in last nice stab. Towards the end of first edition, though, I played Stark Aloof with Army Rob and the House Umber Berserkers.
Oh yeah.
And you know, killing the Reed guy in marshalling and making military challenges in marshalling and all that stupid stuff. It was so fun. That's my favorite.
Lucas Blackwood, I believe it was not a
Lucas Blackwood.
Lucas Blackwood.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, I have to go get Mira, so I will be back. Chris, what was your favorite deck? Because right, you're the one we've missed so far.
Yeah. So second edition, I don't think it's particularly close. Obviously, it's the deck I won Gen Con with.
All right, Mira, people want to see you on the
Will
TV.
always have a special place in my heart. First edition, I have a countdown. Third, I would say, is the Targ Long Voyage deck that I won the Arizona Regionals deck with, or Arizona Regionals tournament with. It was basically that year was like 1 million regionals, and all of them were won by different Long Voyage decks, starting with John Bruno winning Kingdom Con with Bear Long Voyage, and it was just pick your flavor. But the Targ Long Voyage was so much fun because it was like, I liked all of the Targ themes and I couldn't decide, but I didn't have to. So it had summer cards, it had Warcrest cards, and it had Dothraki cards, and they all just like, when you put them together, they all just did like stupid nonsense stuff together. It was fantastic because like half the Dothraki guys also had Warcrests, and then there was like the Dothraki that cared about summer and stuff like that. So that was super fun. Plus, drawing 3 cards a turn is gas. I love it. Number 2, sorry, SoCal, only number 2, Aloof and Apart, or not Aloof and yes, Aloof and Apart. Oh yeah. The final first edition Worlds deck that we all brought. It was a really fun experience putting that together with the SoCal crew and dunking on people. So I never really got to try out the second edition version, but I'm sure it was similar feels. But the first edition one was really special, and that Worlds was really fun. That was the year that Jakob won, when Jonesy had him beat but forgot to marshal his Summer Sea to have an influence to stop Seasick or whatever that stupid card was.
Yeah. Seasick. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Looks at his cards and then
yeah.
Looks at Jacob and then putting it down. Oops.
but that year was so much fun. Like just collaborating on that deck with SoCal and stuff. That was great. But my number 1 first edition deck is definitely Martel Maesters. Deck was just absurd and so much fun, and I love the old Maester agenda, obviously.
This was pre my time, right? When it was totally busted.
Yes, correct. Yeah, it was. It was
in
still.
fairness, it won the last Gen Con.
Yeah, it did. Just the sort of insane toolbox that it had, plus the plot deck lock, being able to go from Art of Seduction on plot 2. So if they valored you plot 2, they were stuck with a 2 gold 0 claim plot going forward to the next round. If they didn't value, they couldn't value you on plot 3 when you flipped you to the spears and just won the game. And so it was beautiful. I won my first regional with that deck, and it was just a total blast to play.
Wait, Martel Maesters didn't win the last Gen Con. Barra Maesters did.
No, Targ Maesters did. No, Barrowmaster.
It was Barrowmasters.
Right.
That was the DC
Yeah.
deck. It was definitely
Yeah.
Barrowmasters. I lost to Simone,
But
who was
yeah,
in
it
one of
didn't-
the people in the
it
top
didn't-
4.
it didn't matter,
I
it just-
definitely remember.
What won?
But it was
the
a very
Maester's
different
agenda.
deck from like the Barrowmasters deck was like a toolboxy kind of deck where you kind of ground them out, and the Martell Maesters was absolutely a rush deck.
I started playing during Martell Maesters. On there was this website TCG Gamer, something like that. It was me. It was Buzz Hannon and like Nate. What's his name? He won a Gen Con, I'm pretty sure. What's Nate Tarantelli?
Yeah.
And like 4 people who played on that goddamn tournament software. And like Martell Maesters was like the scourge of it. We all had to agree not to play with it. There was no integer except for restricted list. That deck was busted as fuck.
Had to ban some stuff. All right, least favorite decks. Chris, we'll start with you.
I mean, it feels like cheating to say my least favorite deck was the same as the least favorite card, but playing against that first edition Boats deck with the Greyjoy, I don't even remember. We do not sow. Is that the name of the agenda? I don't remember the name of the agenda, but it was stupid. as
No.
hell.
Oh,
Old Gods first, and then
Yeah, the Old Gods.
it was eventually an HRD deck.
yeah. By the time it was super busted and like uninteractable, unless you had the plot.
Sure, but I'm just
was-
like, it may have been worse as Old Gods, but that one was more frustrating because it was such a challenge phase lock because everybody was just dying all the time, except all the Greyjoy things were either boats that couldn't die or had saves, so that was pretty stupid. And then I guess for second edition, probably are we gonna count combo decks? I guess
Yeah.
if we count combo decks, then probably like a lady combo or a viper combo, some shit like that. That was just like you didn't get to mess with it, and it won on turn 2. Those were stupid.
That's completely fair. Sid?
If I go way back in time, it's definitely the Greyjoy characterless decks. Like in CCG, you could run a 0 character deck and win. Your boats would turn into characters. You played 3 Westeros Bleeds, so your opponent never had characters, and you had way to like trick things and like make believe other things were characters. It was so stupid. I hated
And
it.
it's a CCG. Greg Atkinson brought that to the last LCG Worlds.
Did he?
Yeah.
It's been around. It's been around. A full characterless deck is gross. I mean, it's Thrones. Characters. I love characters. Characters.
It wasn't
is
the last. It was the
the
alpha.
challenge. There you go.
Oh yeah, you're right.
If it's second edition, I jump on the combo train. Like, I feel like it's one of the biggest failings of second edition design. There's like so many combos, like different combos just kept popping up out of different houses, and it was like, and then they nerfed them all into the ground, so you knew it wasn't intentional, and it just kept happening. I hated it. I hated each tournament season when like, oh, watch out for this combo though, watch out for that combo. It wasn't.
It really stunted the meta in a lot of places where, like, without the combo decks, it would have been a really interesting decision as to which house to play or which deck to play. And with it, you like had to play a deck that had answers like treachery and things like that, or different, whatever the answers were at the given time. But it really limited what the decks looked like and how they could play out.
Yeah, I think the worst combos, right? The Wonder Woman, Ladies, Hyper Viper, they were the ones
Hyper
that
Viper, yeah.
even if you ran this traditional mid-range answer cards like Treachery was like a laughable card to some of those like
Sure, to
those
some
combos.
of them it didn't even matter. Yeah,
Yeah. And that's where it like really became like really bad, because in one of the things that really was frustrating, I do agree, is like that combo winter. Actually, there was a lot of really cool deck innovation that happened, but it ended up being so overshadowed by the combo, by going from Hyper Viper Wonder Woman into Ladies combo for what, 5 months, I think, right? It was by the spring, wasn't until that restricted list came down, right? And then it was all Mace all the time.
But it also transformed into kind of an obsession in the community, like who was going to find the next combo and break the game next, and that became like a big kind of drive of deck building, is find the next combo, and it was just kind of exhausting to be like, okay, I have to deal with what's coming up next down the pipeline.
Can I say I love playing those combo decks?
That's fine.
You can say it.
No,
It's fine. You
it's-
can say whatever you want.
No, no, they are actually super fun to play.
Yeah.
But the issue is it's not a 2-player game by that point.
Right.
Yeah.
It's an interesting like mental exercise. So like,
Yeah.
ooh, yeah, I
It's
get
like
it.
doing
I get it.
Sudoku or something.
I played ladies once at one tournament.
Yeah, I took it to Euros. It was, people were so mad at me. One guy just stood up and walked away, like, this is not Thrones.
He was
I
right.
get it. Yeah,
Yeah, but
Yeah.
did you get the W?
yeah, of
I
course.
mean, he walked away. I imagine.
Yeah, of
So,
course, of course.
Buzz,
You know what I'm gonna say.
builders.
Yeah. So by the time that builders like came around, then like the defense infrastructure was all there, including Haunted Forest and stuff, and just so stupid to play against. I actually didn't play against it that much. The first time I played against it was at Wars when I played Martel and actually won. But I first know I had ward for some important dude. I don't know the names. They all look the same. I don't know.
They all wear those cloaks.
And like I had like the perfect answers, and like someone explained to me what to do before the game. Like, oh, you need to do this and this and this. Okay, I kill it. Whatever. But like seeing it in tournaments, it's like my biggest experience, and it like, didn't look fun at all. That made me turn off so many games when I was following tournaments. Was builders, because he has the wall, he has like 6 characters. Oh, that's the Haunted Forest. Okay, close stream. Bye bye. So boring. Yeah. That said, I've tried playing builders, and it's so fun. Just drawing cards, shuffling, drawing cards, searching for stuff. So I get it.
Yeah, it's a uniquely satisfying experience, even if it's terrible.
Very satisfying.
Yeah, I totally get that. It's just as combat, it's so boring to play against. When, at least when the infrastructure, when the cards were there finally, or in the end, rather than finally, I guess. But yeah.
So I'll be very unpopular with you all, and I will say the Lannister X decks that dominated the game from 2016 to 2017. I mean, very early on, like I just despised the mid-range nature, like particularly it was about who got the big advantage on turn 1 or 2, the Mirando style decks. Like the goal was to build your deck in a way to get an advantage in turn 1 or turn 2, and then you were playing a more interactive version of Solitaire, but they were just the advantages kept piling up and piling up. One put, and then there was another put, and then a treachery. It just, you couldn't catch up. There was no reset that really could set them back, because Wildfire was laughable. You know, when they had the best 7-cost character, the best 6-cost character, and the best 5-cost character, in the game, and your best character, you have like maybe this third best 6-cost character, a 4-cost character, and a 2-cost character, you were fucked. And they were going to get their put off. And then when they added first of Winter, and then so strategies that went wide to get around some of that stuff got really punished. It just, really, really did not enjoy playing the game then. It's when I got really into tournament organizing, because I enjoyed the social experience of the game, but I did not really enjoy the games themselves. And when the game opened up more around the time the Night's Watch box came out, and the 3rd cycle came out, that's when I really started enjoying
Builders.
Builders. Yeah,
Understandable.
a lot.
Okay.
Glazer?
So my least favorite first edition deck is Grand Theft Location. I think only Buzz remembers Grand Theft Location because I believe Jakob won Blackwater Bay with it.
Well, yeah, version of it at least. Yeah.
I fucking hated that deck. That deck was ridiculous. It was just pure efficiency. I think the real reason I hated it was a winter deck, and first edition Mirror was the stupidest card like possible. Where it's just like I blank your key location and your key character, and then I win. And like everything else that it did was fair if it didn't have Mira, and Mira wasn't restricted, and I hated that card. Like it was super duper busted.
So I think it could also be like a list on a list of people's favorite decks because of how toolboxy it was and like super hard to pilot. Like I could never play that deck.
I was
but
really
Jacob could. Yeah.
The problem with it was the choke, right? Like your opponent who brought out their mirror and marshaling before you could marshal and blank your 2 economy locations was where I thought it was just
gross,
really, really unbalanced. Like everything else, like stealing my locations, when you had to do things, because first edition was very interactive, right? Like I didn't mind. It was that one thing where like I lost a tournament final to it where I lost a lot of games to it in fairness, but I lost a tournament final to it where my opponent just like I saw 2 limited locations in the game. And like that was that. He had Mira and like there was nothing I could do. It was just like it was very second edition and a first edition game when that kind of thing happened. And first edition was always very, very interactive, right? Like you would brag about the great plays you made all the time.
Sure.
Sometimes,
That wasn't up.
Like, there's a little bit of rose-tinted glasses there because there were plenty of first edition decks that were not interactive.
Sure, but not at the like top of the game. As a
You
general rule.
loved Stark. What was the stupid fucking only military challenge agenda?
Yeah,
and that
Siege
deck,
of Winterfell.
Oh, yeah, Siege of Winterfell.
That was so interactive.
It was not interactive. You
Yes,
played
it
the battles, and then you flipped that stupid Shadows guy out.
There were
and-
there were
There
a
is
thousand
really
answers. There was Mira. There was
there were answers, but
There were 1,000 answers in every deck. There was Pentoshi Manor. There were things that every regular deck could do to stop fucking Siege of Winterfell. Right? Like, Siege of Winterfell wasn't an auto win. It needed to play things. It needed to see the right thing. It needed to see the right matchups. And it needed to see the right answers at the right time. Like, and you had to play it well. You had to be like, all right, if my opponent has this card in Shadows and it could be Mira, I can't try and go all out this turn. It wasn't the same. It
And
really
you
wasn't.
could get kind of power screwed when you can't gain that power in
Yep.
other ways.
Yeah.
Like you'd be like,
Yeah.
if I could win this game,
Oh,
like
I
people
get to
could
win
go,
dominance.
okay,
Oh, wait.
there's
Look,
one thing I have to stop.
every time
Let
we
me
have this
focus on that.
discussion on this show, I am not saying that there was no interaction. Like that 1.0 was not.
No, but
it
the
just
interaction-
rose-tinted glasses, my
Sure,
friend.
no. What the interaction wasn't
Sure,
specific is the issue, right? Like in second edition, if you want to beat a Shadows deck, you're running like, what's the stupid
dumb
feature
plot.
Yeah, you're running the stupid
And-
plots,
and no
right? Like
surprises.
there's no other answers, right? And in second edition, in first edition, if you wanted to beat a Siege of Winterfell deck, your deck could just do it, right? Like if you saw the right pieces, if you played well, if you timed everything well, your deck could just do it. Unless you were playing most decks could just beat it. Trust me, I played it about as much as anyone. Like you see a Martell or a certain Lannister type of deck in front of you, and you'd be like, "Well, I'm either winning on turn one, either I can pull this off, or I'm real screwed." Thanks, No Quarter, for even giving us that chance, right? But like. In second edition, you would sit down with perfect. The end of the game HRD Shadows decks. The HRD, help me here, please.
HRD Bowsels.
No. The Tarquins.
Oh, Marine? Or are you talking about Dragon Pit?
Shadows. Dragon Pit. Yeah, HRD Dragon Pit.
yeah.
Second edition Shadow deck. One of my favorite first edition decks.
House of Pain.
In second edition, in second edition, if someone plays that and you're playing Sea of Blood against it, you lost the game when you sat down. Right? Like you can win 1 out of every 100 matches, not 1 out of every 10 matches. And I think that is the ultimate difference between first and second edition. And like people who played first edition can tell me I'm wrong, but like I don't think I am here.
Second edition was a more polarized game than first edition was, I think. But I think that, again, my whole point is not there's no truth to what you're saying. I'm saying that we particularly on this cast, it is true that we have talked about first edition with rose-tinted glasses through its entire history.
Sure. However, what I said now, I don't think
yeah,
is
I mean, I
rose-tinted.
think we have reasonable defenses for those
Yes.
things. Like,
Yes. It's just like I don't. At the end of the day, I played
Roy's
second
just trying
edition
not
for
to
5
alienate
years.
second edition auto.
I don't.
No,
I mean,
I
who
think-
cares?
I mean,
Anyway,
I honestly
but,
don't
like,
care. I truly believe I've listened to Glazer both on this show and in person go on and on and on. But then I remember playing that the card Fear of Winter existed in first edition, and
It's true.
he was talking about Mira,
Distraction.
who prevented interaction all the time. And I remember losing
Mira
those
was
games.
busted. However, Fear of Winter, I played at a Gen Con that John came in second place with, right? And like knowing it was in your deck, there were counters, right? Like if you know your opponent's opening Fear, you open Valor, and you're probably fine. There's real answers that they're like. There were games you sat down with as losses in first edition. I just feel like they were rare. Like I can't think of many outside of Longship Made in Spain, which probably should have never existed. Right? Outside of Longships Made in Spain, I can't think of many first edition matchups that were done before you sat down.
Lots of people playing against Dragon Pit in first edition.
Oh, you could beat Dragon Pit first edition.
I mean, when I was the Greyjoy decks, I would play. Like, remember the Longship Maiden, not Maiden Bane.
I lost
Iron
at-
Victory.
I
You
lost
couldn't
at
beat
Black-
Dragon Pit.
I lost at Blackwater Bay. Yes, that specific version. But like I lost at Blackwater Bay to Heron playing Greyjoy while I played Dragon Pit. Like Grand Theft Location beat the fuck out of Dragon Pit, right? Like there was
Right.
just a lot of counterplay. It wasn't 100%, right? Like not every deck was gonna beat every other deck. You weren't gonna walk in with Barra. What was the first edition Alliance?
Which one?
Conquests.
There was
Oh,
Conquest,
you were
and there
gonna
was
walk
also
with-
the other one.
You
right?
weren't gonna welcome with Barra Conquest and usually beat like a Martell control deck that was like optimized for that kind of thing, right? But you could. Like I feel like in 1,000 matches, and my least favorite second edition deck is Drowned God. In a
combo.
thousand, Drowned God and Sea of Blood are my least favorite. I actually skipped combo because that was after the Gen Con that Schoenthal won, where I was so frustrated at FFG I stopped playing at their specifically organized tournaments. But Sea of Blood and Drowned God, where you could walk in with literally anything, unless it was super optimized, you would lose. Like one of my great frustrations at that Gen Con that we all brought
Mace.
Wildlings.
The
No,
Wildlings?
Wildlings.
Okay.
Is Dan should have scooped to Emberly. Emberly was completely undefeated. That deck was unbeatable in the meta, except that Dan knew it existed and we knew it existed, and we thought other people might have figured it out. So we ran 3 of the vent that emptied your discard pile or dead pile. And nothing but that event could beat that Drowned God deck. So Emberly had an auto win. And we should have scooped to that deck all day long once we realized it was the right deck. Like it was.
Well, we weren't there. You and I weren't at that Gen Con. so-
Sure, we as our Long Lances team of playing Wildlings should have seen Emberly and been like, "Oh, Emberly literally can't lose," which we also saw at the giant J&D tournament, right? That like unless you get extremely unlucky, that was the best deck in the meta. Like it was uninteractive and it was stupid, and I hate that deck. But it should have won Gen Con that year, except that we knew it existed and so played that event.
Yeah. Who has not fired off? Has someone not fired off a least favorite deck?
Sure.
I think
Maybe
every-
everyone did.
All right, then we get to do. This is the probably most classic Second Sons topic. We used to do an episode a year about this. Greatest meta in second edition. All right, so we did this literally we did it in 2016, 2017. I think we did one in 2019. No, we did the Glazer Invitational Tournament in 2019. So we didn't do it. We didn't do a meta thing. So what sitting here we've 2.0 dead. So sitting here at the end of the FFG era has now been over for over 6 months. What do we think is the greatest meta at the end of 2.0? Not 1.0. This is a specific 2.0 question. And some options that I did was, of course, the English or UK meta, Germany, the Canadian, and Wausau. are sort of the ones that came off my head. So what do we think?
I don't know. For me, it's kind of clear. It should be the English guys, I guess, because I mean they play the game so much, and they will probably keep playing the game for so long, and they've been consistently playing, and it shows when they show up to tournaments. They are also quite many, so they have a good chance every time they show up because numbers. But they have some super all-star players that just wreck people. I don't know.
I think that's a very defensible choice.
I mean, Wama definitely comes to mind when you think of who are some of the absolute top 2.0s, especially near the second half of the game, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of them, like Bamford and Wedge and some others, they show up and play stupid decks and lose because they play stupid decks. But when they show up with a good deck, they'll get to the cut every single time, and they'll be in the finals almost every single time. So for me, the runners-up are probably Germany, especially towards the end where they started fielding... what's the guy that I beat, by the way, for the King of Swiss last year?
Hano?
No. The silent guy that just wins. What's his face? I don't remember.
Leonard?
Guy who just wins.
Yeah, Leonard Pega.
Oh, Leonard.
Yeah.
You mean one of the former world champions? I guess because
That
that guy. You know, instead of listing his like number one Buzz's Leonard's number one accomplishment is losing to Buzz for King of Swiss. That's Leonard's greatest accomplishment.
That's. I mean, it's probably like one of my biggest accomplishments. That's why I mention it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's difficult to argue with the UK dominance because I think they had really big players at the beginning of second edition, like Ryan Wood. Remember
I love Ryan Wood.
Who was very, very dominant early on. You know, someone like Joe Zimmer, who's been pretty consistent like across the whole run of the game. Same with Richard, although like Richard goes, I think, to less big tournaments these days, but he definitely like remained consistently good. And then of course Wama, when he started taking the game seriously, sort of towards the second half of it. I mean, compare when Wama tested with us for Gen Con, Glazer, to who Wama became. When I think, did he win any games at the Gen Con he went to? He won two. Okay, so I had a better record.
Wama.
Right. I mean, I had a better record at that Gen Con than him, and that is like really sad.
Played Terrell.
Son.
Terrell. Son.
Yes.
Yeah,
I helped him test that
deck.
on Octagon. That's the last time I played Octagon. It's just, and then Wama, of course, became, I mean, I think, arguably, and we'll get to the greatest players of second edition, the greatest player. I think, yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to think of it. I mean, Wausau might be the closest
Germany,
American
dude.
meta.
I mean, America sucks, right? Like, no offense, right? Like,
really, at this point, do you mean no offense, Glazer?
I don't care. Fair.
Yeah,
I don't care if anyone's offended. Like, I think SoCal was good. I think New York was good. Whatever long
SoCal was a
legs
first
we
edition
existed,
meta.
we at least competed, right?
Yeah, but we
We
weren't
just
like.
We managed to punt like motherfuckers consistently. It's Germany though. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and be like England and then America. No, it's
I didn't say
Germany.
America.
I know, but like, Germany is like fifth best player would have been the best player in most other countries. It's just they were ridiculously consistent. In first edition it was Spain, and I don't think anyone would argue that. Because like it was Jesus and Alvaro and like they just won and what's his dumb name? Heron and like in first edition, Spain was ridiculously successful.
I think you could
I feel
definitely
like
make
in
an
first
argument.
edition,
California,
there were American metas that could compete.
Yeah.
though.
California
I mean,
definitely.
Very theoretically, right? Like
I mean,
when they
Swe-
came here, they won.
Sweden
Yes.
towards the end.
Sweden
Sam
existed,
Sam Bratz
sure,
beat
Fucking
Alvaro.
insane.
Sure, and the year before Alvaro won, and then like they won Stalik, and then Wasa won to like it didn't matter, right? Like Spain still consistently won, and yes,
Yeah, I mean, over the
Sweden would
span.
have Sweden existed at the end, right? But like throughout the run of the game,
Yeah.
like existing for a year at the end doesn't mean you get to beat the main meta for 6 years.
I mean, I
No,
think
it
there's.
doesn't matter.
I think there's much bigger arguments for American metas though in first edition.
Oh, I
California. I mean, when you look at card designs,
California wasn't the most successful first edition meta, and
What-
no one's happy about it, but they were, right?
and
most
DC.
successful, most successful first edition meta was DC, and they cheated their way to it. In fairness, right? But they like
if we're stripping out the fake game where you have 4 players at the table, you're still including them in the conversation. Like,
I sat
on,
down.
that's-
I
I
also
totally disagree.
I've sat down with everyone who's ever been good at this game. I think,
in
like,
first edition at least.
or second. I don't think I've sat. I can't think of anyone who's major I haven't sat down at a table with. The best player I've ever sat down with was Corey. Like, and I don't think it's close. Like I've played.
Sure, but
Jakob.
he also didn't play his-
Care often? Sure.
Yeah.
I played Bruno, and how often did Bruno actually give a shit in second edition? Right? Like,
Right.
Not in
that's why
second
I said
edition.
second edition was
Right. I think
That's
second edition.
what we're talking
I
about.
think second
Yeah.
edition.
sure. Well, second edition is different, right? Like, I don't think DC
Yes.
is the best meta in second edition. I think the best
Oh,
meta in
good.
second edition
No.
is Germany
It didn't exist in
Um,
second edition.
Until the last Worlds. When
No, they start like I think
Well, that's
they were
very-
around at the beginning. Like
I mean, who'd you beat in your Gen Con finals, Sean Paul?
Yeah, I
like-
guess he was there too.
Like, I mean, like this isn't. I'm not making up that DC was incredible. Like, and I know there's a real rivalry here, and I'm not saying SoCal was bad. I just think DC was more consistent, and
yeah, and
like-
I just-
I mean,
like
Jimmy does
it's
make a good point in
I don't
chat
know.
about Italy, but I think Italy.
yeah, I could see that.
I
I just think
was
Germany.
Italy
was-
much deeper than Neimer though. Like,
that's a buzz.
yes, a couple
Thing.
people.
Yeah. They so you definitely have an American perspective, because even if I say that UK and Germany is the top in second edition, I mean it's close between like Spain and Italy, and if we played Sweden, probably at least the early days we were good.
In the early days.
And
When you care.
right?
Yeah,
I don't think
when we
anybody's
played the
arguing
game.
for an American meta being close to the top in second edition. I don't think that ever happened.
no, I don't know. I mean, I would put SoCal in that mix for second edition. It's also SoCal is probably bigger than like in size than most of these countries that I'm mentioning. So, yeah, I mean,
Certainly
if
in
we include
population,
SoCal, like SoCal, how big is that? And maybe it's also like it's bordering NorCal, and maybe you include those people, and then it's like huge and have so many good players. I don't know. But Italy definitely, and if we're talking first edition, I mean, Italy was amazing at the game, like amazing. But like most of these players that you've never heard about are probably better than the people who traveled overall. It just happened to be some people that won a tournament and got to travel to Worlds.
I mean, it's also like I played Alvaro 30 times, right? Like Alvaro traveled for the week before the Worlds he won to New York, and we all sat in the Google offices and played him game after game after game after game after game after game after game. Like I didn't play him twice, right? Like I played him a million. Like I knew that deck when I played it. Like I had played that deck so many times. We played it on stream, and I was like, "Here's the plots. Here's the cards." Like 1,000%.
I mean, the
But
problem
I'm
always
saying-
with doing this is that there's selection bias because you're primarily going to judge all metas by the people who travel.
I mean, I'm not judging the meta. I'm saying the best, right?
Right.
Like, and I'm judging the best by like I was in
Right.
Poland and the Germans kicked our ass.
Yeah,
I was,
but what I'm saying is for first edition, Alvaro,
Yeah.
was he that good? I mean, he was really good.
so
but I
Alvaro's
know
problem was
better
always that he
Spanish
played.
people.
Yes, agreed. What's his dumb? I can't think of his name. Rab's friend. He was at that Blackwater, but he played shitty decks.
I think I know who you talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. Like better, but Alvaro's problem wasn't that he wasn't one of the better technical players ever, right? It was that he would only play Lannister like very forcefully, even if they were bad. Like I remember sitting with him against other decks and just like it wasn't a big deal, but like he was the best game I ever saw was him against Garrick in the semifinals of the one Bratz one. Right? Were you were there for that, right? The one Bratz one or no?
You mean like
I was,
the
yeah.
first?
The Worlds Bratz one, not the like.
The last
I mean-
World 1.0 only Worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah, where Brad
So-
won in second edition.
No, when he won in
the
first edition. Like where there
So
was no
when
second.
Bratz
That's where they announced
when
second
Bratz beat
edition.
Alvaro in the final. The game before that was Bratz against Garrick. I sat there with Stroms and Hines. Hines won overall that year, watching that game. And as the plots came around, me, Stroms, and Hines had this long conversation about what Alvaro would do because we knew everyone on Earth knew Alvaro's deck inside and out at that point. And like we're all like, well, the plot you play is clearly this, and like we all agreed, and we're like, the backup plot is this if we're somehow missing something. Alvaro played an entirely third plot, and it blew out his opponent, and none of us saw it. And me, Hines, and Stroms literally went and sat down and had a conversation about why he made that play. Like we literally turned on, we're like, fuck, fine. I guess he's just that much better than we are right now. And like literally Hines won overall and Stroms could have won that tournament, right? Like we went and said like he played the blow up a location thing because his opponent played
The city plot?
and his opponent played the Melisandre thing. And we were just like, oh, we all 18 plots in missed that little economy play. And it was like a 1 goal difference and it blew out Garrick and it made the finals for him. And like we just literally were just like, how did that 1 goal difference? What? And we all just went and sat down and we're like, all right, so how do we get better at this? Because like he clearly saw a line none of us saw. Like, yes, people were better than Alvaro. People weren't better than Alvaro with that specific, like, I know my deck and I know the perfect play in every single situation because I've played this so much. And like, I think Spain in first edition was like, I really wish I remembered his name. He made this really great Targ deck that I can't remember the name. But like Harren had that stupid Greyjoy deck, right? Where they were so intense on one deck that they were very often the very best.
Yeah.
It was a question about second edition. So Sid and Chris, opinions? You got no opinion?
Yeah, I don't have a lot.
I don't
to
have an
add to
opinion.
What was said really?
Okay.
I don't think there was an American meta that was particularly close if we're talking specifically about second.
Not
edition.
in second edition, no. I would agree with that.
All right. Well, go ahead.
First, from my perspective, it's the reverse. Like, it's almost not close in first edition, but in second edition, there's so many good players in the US. No?
Well, we're not talking about players.
Players,
yet.
which
We're
we
talking
can
about-
get to.
Individual, absolutely.
Right.
I think-
But I think
Well, I
they're
don't think that-
nested.
I don't think that's true either. I think the like 3 best players in second edition are European.
Well, we can get the best players.
Yeah, sure, but that doesn't matter. I'm talking about metas.
Right.
And
Oh, fair.
But
I'm,
I think
I'm saying there's so many good players and they're nested in certain areas like SoCal and like stuff.
But I think one of the things about the American scene in second edition is I think the American scene was more interbred in the sense that like there was much less of a coherent like SoCal exists as a distinct meta because you know we poached a bunch of SoCal people from New York to test with us, right? And then Indy also tested with people in the Pacific Northwest and Canadians. Like I think
mean, you say poached, but that was because SoCal had given up by that point. Like
Yes.
nobody was interested in taking the game seriously, and that wasn't. I couldn't stand for that.
Right. No, this wasn't throwing shade at anybody. This is just more saying like, and then CT's testing team in Indy was, you know, again mixed with a bunch of people. Like there were very few like coherent metas based by geography, particularly by the end of the game. By the end of the game, it was just basically, the best players finding the people that they were most socially and sort of playstyle compatibly with and testing with them in the U.S. And like that's how you led to like Francis's win and where he tested with from and all that kind of stuff. So you couldn't really even say that like there was a New York meta by the end of 2.0. There wasn't. There were some players that were based in New York, but we tested with Canadians and Californians and Europeans. And definitely by the end, like, I mean, I'm wearing my Lances hoodie today. Like my identification as a player was not with New York or with Philadelphia, even though there was a handful of people in Philly proper who were playing. I mean, I liked them as people, but they weren't like my meta mates in the way in which I think first edition, definitely in the US, it was much more geography based, close to what Europe kind of consistently kept. And I think that might have a lot to do with Stolic being, traveling as countrymen and it being so focused on, what country do you come from, socialize with your countrymen, country people, and then also relating to each other.
No, that's not how first edition worked. That's how first edition in SoCal worked for one tournament a year, right? Because like SoCal didn't work together in general.
Sure, yeah.
SoCal worked together for Worlds. DC worked together for everything, and the third major first edition meta was Missouri, right? Missouri, and they didn't work together even at Worlds.
Well, according to Will's stories, they all knew what each other were playing, but they
didn't take the same deck.
They didn't take the same deck, and that was
said they all were.
Yeah.
Look, it was Zyler and Atkinson, right? Like there weren't other Missouri, and I mean, like Will had his run back when Will was insanely intense, but like the rest of Missouri didn't matter. There was no like fourth Missouri player that you were like
Kyle unofficially. Even though he was in Iowa.
Kyle mattered at the end of first edition. Kyle didn't matter at the beginning of first edition for a long time. He was like 12 years old.
Whoa. He was 8. All right. So, all right. So why don't we just jump into the other contested Classic Second Son thing? Best player of second edition. We've had some names thrown out there already. Wama, Hano, Leonard, Reinhardt. That's another one that sort of comes to mind. Bratz also, I mean, had pretty consistent success. Mirando.
Wait, did Bratz have consistent success, or did he have 2 years of success?
I mean,
Bratz had success when he wanted to succeed.
Yes,
I mean,
that's a very important statement.
I think
right?
he had maybe like 3 years of success. I think he would say.
No. Bratz had 3
tournaments
of success. Right, like
Alejandro, yeah.
I love Sam, but he didn't care. Alejandro
definitely
is, in my opinion, the single best American second edition.
Alex Black.
I don't. Alex Black was too inconsistently playing. CT might be second. I'd have to remember.
I think CT's close.
But Alejandro's first.
Emberly.
You know who's insane, and no one else but me is ever going to remember this. But Shoemaker was nuts good at second edition.
Shoemaker, yeah, Derek.
Yeah, despite how much he hated it.
Hated the game. Hated he's everything. It's never Shoemaker. But he was phenomenal.
Derek, yeah, I mean, Derek definitely. Malucci. Malucci.
Yeah.
When he deigned to play, as Jimmy says in the chat.
Look, Malucci, I'm always going to be annoyed that he won that Gen Con because Jesse handed him her deck. Like, he didn't test, he didn't play. Like, he relied on people.
Sure, yeah.
Decks.
I mean,
But he's also a good player.
Sure, he's
also a
phenomenal.
really good player.
But like, if
he's
Jesse,
top 5, I think.
Sure, and if Jesse didn't hand him our deck, right? He doesn't win that Gen Con with whatever someone else handed him, because no one else did, right? Like, our decks were literally like we were the Drowned God, we were the Wildlings, and we were that fucking Greyjoy deck.
We did build because we tested against it.
There was that one Shadows deck that wasn't ours.
But I mean, a lot of people's successes have come from being handed a deck, you know?
Yeah.
Yes.
A lot.
I'm not saying, I mean, sure.
I mean,
and I'm not saying he's
metas
worse. I'm saying that, like,
and
if he
did well
didn't
with it.
win that Gen Con, we'd be like, well, he's clearly like a step below. And like,
No. So
No, I don't think
I would argue that looking at who wins tournaments, that's It's a really bad way of looking
It
on
should
who's a
be,
good
but
player.
it's not how it works.
Yeah, it's a Swiss game. I think look at who consistently gets King of Swiss, who consistently gets into cats. That's a good player.
I agree with you. Buzz. I mean, this is thing we've also always frequently said on the show, but Malucci is one of those people. Other people being thrown in chat is Tomash, excuse me, and
Never heard of him.
Nico Neimer would also be a pretty.
My number 4 is Nyman.
Yeah.
My number 5 is Alejandro.
Ryan for the first 2 years, you would say, Chris? Would you say
Yeah, it
Jones?
seems reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's about how long he cared.
Yeah. And then, but definitely, I think for me, trying to remove my own biases for this question, I would definitely say for Americans, it is like somewhere between Alejandro, Tom, and and Alex. Like Alex Black,
He didn't play enough.
but he had like a very, I think he had
Just
one of the
good at
most
card game.
Yeah, he brought a very disciplined card game approach. That's one of the reasons why I also think Tom is so good. It's like they bring a disciplined card game approach to the game that like leads to consistency. When I think Alex had to put a little bit more work in to because when the times when Alex really didn't give a fuck, he didn't do that great. Unlike Malucci, who could be handed a deck, not give a fuck, not thought about the game for 8 months or whatever, and make the cut. Which would probably put him as like number 2 behind Alejandro. So
Sure.
This is gonna be.
You know who might be number 2? Want to hear Schoenthal yell at me? Emberly.
He's not number 2. No.
He's not number 2 in the
Look
US.
at his. I mean, in North America, look at his record. Dude made
Good.
every cut. He had like a
Top 10.
78% win
Number
percent.
2 overall.
who's
Oh,
this? I'm
man.
sorry.
Emberly.
Oh, Emberly. I mean, Sean at the end of the game, has a lot to
From
do
the
with
middle of the game, from the beginning, he made every cut. Dude had a 70 winning percent, and all he went to was top level tournaments. He didn't go to like a local. He won local ship, and it wasn't on Iron Throne.
I mean,
But,
like I
like-
said, removing my own biases. Like I would definitely like
I
I.
look. You
Not
know,
to-
I don't. I want to root for Jordan Peterson, boy, right?
I mean, that's why.
But if we're going pure record,
Not to open old wounds, but like Jesse was legitimately good at the game. Like,
Well,
very
Jesse
good
was
at the game.
fantastic. At
There
I mean,
was-
does melee count? Because Jesse's the goat.
Now there has been I guess a reconsideration of Jesse's career, where more people are, how am I put this, coming forward with stories of Jesse engaging in shady behavior at key moments of his successful career, where people were willing to give him a pass. Like
I mean, I think there's one example of that I think I would consider in that, but I don't know about others.
yeah,
I don't.
I've just
think
heard
I
a lot
care
of
about
I've been
any
gotten a
of
lot of
those.
chatter. So which
I've
made me
gotten them too. They don't matter. Like, look, Jesse, we can all dislike him as much as we want, was a phenomenal card player.
It was.
He was, yeah. I mean, look, I got infinitely better testing with Jesse, and like again, it's one of the reasons why like a lot of my Thrones memories are poisoned. Like ones that I should look back on, like that summer where he hung out at my house for a week and pissed the couch, and
I forgot about that.
like that was an amazing time except for having to clean the couch up, and then my wife being like, "What the fuck, your friend pissed the couch?" Like, except for that part, but the rest of it was really fun. But that's now that was also a time when he was scamming people out of money, and he scammed me. Like that's one of the few times that Jesse got money out of me.
He's
And
not my least favorite long lens.
so. Wow. Oh well. I mean, I guess
My wife has
that's
never
what-
seen Jesse's dick for no reason.
All right. Now,
Drink more, Aaron. Drink more.
all right. So Buzz wanted me to ask
Let's
this
just
question
really bust this wide open.
from Trey. Is there any game that we have a chance of importing the Thrones community into? I mean, I will be brutally honest and say no. I
Not
think
currently.
that the magic of the Thrones community.
The last year has completely destroyed any goodwill I had toward a lot of the community.
Yeah, and I think the seams were starting to show even before then, even before Jesse. Like, I think that there was...
It was Miranda, right?
Yeah,
like,
I mean...
No joke. It was really, like, at its core, the problem was, like, when Miranda happened, like, a good third-ish of the community was like, that's our guy. We like him a lot. And, like, it was Miranda that broke this open, and everything after was just like...
It was, yeah. I do agree. I think in first edition, the community did a lot better job papering over some standard, like, gamer community problems, and Miranda, and then, of course, Booker, burst those problems onto the surface, and in many good ways, because it meant there were good changes in how this community operated, but also bad. There were bad consequences as well. Yeah. So I don't think that the like Magic times that many of us think back on can be recreated in a 2020 context in any gaming community. So that's my sad.
All right, it's a good place to wrap it.
Well, I think it's.
You told me to drink more, motherfucker.
I think what I mean.
That's just generally good practice.
What is the main thing that we were infamous for on this show, besides
controversy?
Yes, controversy. What it was? What this show? I think every single person on this show, except for Schoenthal, called for at least one FFG employee to be fired from their job.
I didn't. I'm kind of surprised.
I don't think you did.
Believe that. I don't believe that you never did.
I don't think so either. There's got to be one at least.
Definitely with the OP.
Definitely Zach for a while. I was definitely on that train.
Our number one fan has a good question.
He asks, okay, rephrased. Is there a game that will appeal to AGOT players in terms of gameplay, or is it the community that made the game special? Ooh.
So a thing that Clemens and I do, that Roy and I do, that Schoenthal does once in a blue moon when he can be deigned to hang out with us anymore. Be deigned, ew, grammar. But whatever. Shut up, Sid. I know you heard it.
I heard it.
I'm not the grammar police, though. Don't
no,
worry.
me neither.
Not publicly.
Only professionally.
We Skype each other and do Magic Draft. I don't think Magic is a healthy game. I don't think Magic Standard.
I think limited Magic is a healthy game, which is what draft is.
So what we do is ultimately we sit on Skype, we share a screen, and we draft together and we talk and we have a great time. And no one we've done it with has done it only once. Right? Like, everyone we've done it with has come back at least. I think Schoenthal is the minimum at 4 or 5 times now. Right? Is that reasonable?
More than that, I'd say.
Yeah, I think it's more than that. But I got bored of this set, so
the Ikoria era, like deep quarantine. Yeah, we were doing it almost every night.
But so I think that, like, if you're playing Thrones and you'd like to, like, hang out with us, and, like, Magic doesn't make you vomit and you don't care about losing because it's draft, so sometimes you're just gonna be like, oh, guess what, I drew 8 lands or 1 land a bunch of games in a row, suck it. The experience and the gameplay when the games go well is relatively similar. I think what Thrones does well is what Magic Draft does well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main issue for me...
What music am I listening to?
I don't know. My wife is watching something. I don't know. I think she's watching Schitt's Creek, or I think that's what is going on back there. I don't 100% know. I mean, for me, just on a purely personal level, and this is something I've actually been struggling a lot in 2020, which is Thrones came into my life at a very particular time where I was able to invest both in the community and the basic skill set in a really intense way that I can't anymore. With my job and personal responsibilities, that, means that I will never really probably have an experience like I had with Thrones. And that's something I've struggled with a lot this year. And it's been one of the things that's making really kind of like hard for me to fully quit being a content creator for Thrones. And we're doing this show.
Is that why I have to keep talking about these tournaments?
Yes, that is one of the reasons why you have to keep talking about these tournaments, because it's filled such a hole in in my life. It's hard to entirely let go, even though it may be at this point probably healthier to do so, for being really honest. That's a happy note.
Look, we can, if the other co-host would like to. Spoiler, they wouldn't. We can do this about literally nothing once a month, and I don't give a shit. I love the four of you very much, but we can talk about literally masturbation techniques for the next once a month.
That might not be good to exist professionally on the internet for a lot of people.
Look,
There goes Chris. We just lost Chris.
Yeah, that's Chris.
I think I broke him, but no, we
just
could talk. It could be I don't care, pizza toppings, but the
Pizza topping podcast.
The four of us,
pizza Patreon, our pizza
our conversation, apparently, because Lord knows, looking through the chat, how many of these people actually still care or pay attention to Thrones?
Some of them.
None of them.
We can all just get together and talk about things. I don't know, look, spoiler, I've said this 5,000 times. I don't care who listens to Second Son. Second Sons existed because I like talking to you people.
And we had free Tuesday nights because Will
White Book
started the team system.
But White Book exists now, or Props and Slops exists now because I got really used to talking to Will once every 2 weeks, right? So we talk about stuff. By the way, if you haven't been listening, every other week is me, Will, and Roy just talking about pop culture.
Sometimes Sam.
And Sam was on once with us, but whatever. It's just we like talking to each other. And if you like listening, great, have fun. Thrones is lovely. Thrones was wonderful. But much like growing up and letting high school go, Thrones is gone. And it's probably time to own that and move on.
Wow.
Sorry.
That was surprisingly profound at the end there, Glazer. I think that is as good a note as any to end this. Somebody have a point?
Yeah. I think the real answer that Trey is trying to get out of us is to listen to the Game Brain podcast, join their community, and play games with them.
They are a sweet community, and it is a very sweet podcast. So definitely ending a note endorsing Trey's excellent community that he's built and the excellent content they produce. I think is a really good place to be. I will also prop the White Book, which Will is continuing to keep going. The episode should return next week. I don't know what the topic will be, but it will.
No, we're doing a Props and Slops.
Are we?
It's us.
Okay, so props.
1-5 is us.
Okay, props and slops. So if you want
I want to prop something else though.
What?
Thrones was awesome for a really long time, for longer than anything of its type has been. I've met friends that I would literally kill or die for. I love this community. I love this game very much. And that it's been so turbulent doesn't change that. This has been a phenomenal experience overall, and no amount of sourness at the end of it is going to change the years and years of wonderful experiences that led us there.
That's another profound note. Glazer is in the profound state of his drunkenness. So that's
I'm with him there. I'm right with Glazer there. I mean, I played for 15 years, and it's you can't just say oh well, move on to new things. It didn't matter. It did matter. It was important. I've made friends that I hope will continue to last. I've stayed relatively close with a lot of Thrones people, even through COVID. That's been the real test, right? That even through COVID, I've still stayed in contact with the people that I was closest to through Thrones. It made up my social calendar for a decade. It was important, and I miss it. But I don't want it back, if that makes sense.
No,
it's okay. It's okay to let it go.
I mean,
I want something.
What comes back is the sick little brother, right?
Maybe.
Not really sure what that means.
whenever we come back, it's like we're all still the same, and it's like I'm coughing plague on you. It's like, you should probably let that go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
things have ends.
Yeah.
Well said.
I have created a quite big international friends circle thing over the years. It started with Utopia, if anyone played that game, and then a couch surfing community, and which means that I've been able to travel the world and like sleep on people's couches pretty much anywhere in the world, which has been great. And this extended into the Thrones community, which means that I will hit people up when we can travel again, if we can travel again, and people are always welcome to hit me up if you want to tour around Stockholm or somewhere in Sweden. Yep.
Yay, vaccines.
One day, we'll all be vaccinated. Vaccinated.
God, that was
Yeah, I know it was really terrible. Chris, do you have any sort of final thoughts you want to offer?
I don't know. Maybe not as inspiring as any of the rest of them, really.
They don't have to be inspiring,
Yeah.
my friend. It's your.
Yeah, I don't know. But the last year has really, like I said, made a lot of these things a little more poison in my mind. I'm sure, looking further back on it, I'll have these feelings, but everything's still pretty raw for me. So I don't know if I have the it was nice while it lasted kind of feelings when, like, literally this year it has cost me like a bunch of people that I had great respect for and now no longer do. So
Yeah, that's completely fair. I guess my feelings fall somewhere in between classic myself, where the last couple of years really have injected some poison in there, but I also have some of the optimism and sort of gloss that Glazer and Sid have towards it as well. So I do want to particularly thank two groups of people as I end this. The first is what are we at? 10 people. There were 15 people watching at our top of the show, or at
We've done worse.
We have definitely done worse. Definitely done worse. I want to thank all of you for watching this. I will be exporting it to the Beyond the White Book YouTube channel. So if you'd like to engage with that piece of content, you may. And then, of course, I want to thank the 4 gentlemen who agreed to do this with me. I really, really appreciate it. This has been doing a Second Sons Christmas episode, New Year's episode is something that I have done every year for the last 5 years. And it's nice to kind of do one final one because the bigger group missed last year, but Glazer and I did the review of the bin pack around the holidays.
forgot that.
4 hours.
I watched it. Yeah.
Why?
So, and yeah, so I want to thank you all. It was a bit of work to get us all at a time that worked for everybody, and so I appreciate you all coming out.
Hey, can I final thought us?
Sure.
We'll be back at some point.
All right.
speak for yourself.
I love you all. Thank you so much.
Everybody.